welcome once again. We have Mr. Lloyd here with us. I would love to have your introduction and let the people know who we're about to be hearing from. And Mr. Bruce, thanks for coming. It's actually very, very humbling to have you on the space because I know you're a very busy person, and having you here to create time and come here and speak to us is valuable. I'll always cherish that. Thank you so much. Mr. Lloyd, thanks for coming. Could you unmute your mic and let us have your intro monologue, please? Thank you.
Hello, I bring you greetings. My name is Lloyd Uku, and I am the Executive Director of NEDECO, the National Democratic Coalition, NEDECO USA. I am speaking to you from NEDECO headquarters here in Washington, D.C., USA. I believe most of you already know NEDECO is Nigeria's premier and foremost pro-democracy group dedicated to entrenching democracy, the rule of law, good governance, accountability in Nigeria. NEDECO was first formed after June 12, 1993 election in which Chief MKO Abiola won and the election was annulled. Nigerians all across the board, across ethnic lines, across religious lines, across political lines, got together and formed the National Democratic Coalition. It's national, as the name implies, is a coalition, as the name implies as well. And it was later founded in the United States in 1994. And this was when the members were being chased out by the then military dictator, General Sani Abacha. Some of them were assassinated, some were arrested and locked up, and many bad things happened to many of them. And so a lot of them who had the means escaped to West African countries, to Europe, and to America. The team that arrived here in 1994 got together and registered NEDECO here in the United States, specifically July 1st, 1994. And at that time, I was the General Counsel. Today, I'm speaking to you as the Executive Director. And in my speech, I would lay out the plans that NEDECO has. But NEDECO has always had one goal. The goal it had in 1993 was the flushing out of General Sani Abacha, who had mounted the office of the president illegally and illegitimately through the barrel of the gun. Today, 2023, 30 years later, our goal has not changed. But this time, the goal is to flush out Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who did exactly what General Abacha did, but only this time as a civilian. And it's important for us to note that in 1993, Mr. Bola Tinubu was part of us here in the United States fighting to remove Abacha from office simply because he got to that position by force. Today, NEDECO is committed to making sure that exactly what we did in 1993 is going to repeat itself. Unfortunately, 30 years later, we did not expect that such a fight would be necessary. But it is what it is right now. And so our goal, singular goal, is to make sure that Tinubu does not remain the president of Nigeria, which he illegally and illegitimately got by fraud. And so um, most of what you'll be hearing today would basically be towards how we can make sure that he is flushed out along with APC. There is no need for 2027. There's no need for 2031 because those dates not do not exist. They do not mean anything to APC and Mr. Bola Tinubu. There's no need for us to even think about it. That let's give him 4 years to finish. No, there is no 4 years for him to finish illegally, and he has to be forced out the way we forced out General Sani Abacha in 1993. So um, that's by way of introduction. And we have speakers like Mr. Bruce Fein, who is going to tell us how we can legally and politically um, get to our goal. And Mr. Gregory Simpkins also is going to tell us the way to go to achieve what I just said to you. Thank you very much. And I must appreciate the individuals that put this thing together, especially Mr. Jimmy, for granting me and the entire NEDECO the opportunity to express views to fellow Nigerians. I greet you and I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. We love you too. Let me just recap on what you just spoke about right now. So, what happened now is he just spoke about a democratic coup that took place during this last election. That was exactly what happened. And we're doing this deliberately to let people know there's nothing we're doing here that is absolutely illegal, okay? Because the emergence of this political party, the emergence of this current administration is flawed. The emergence of was not constitutional, and it's not an hidden thing, and that's the reason why we're doing it on a public platform for people to know that we the Nigerian people, not all Nigerians are docile, not all Nigerians are corrupt, not all Nigerians don't know the right thing to do. We know the right thing to do. We did not put this man there. He stole his way to power. He rigged his way to power, and he single-handedly bought the judicial system of that country. Over 200 million people's lives are at stake. Their freedoms are at stake here. And that's the reason why we're standing our ground. There is nothing more patriotic than what we're doing here. And that's why we're doing it openly. For Tom, Dick, and Harry to know that Nigerian people are fighting back. We're not going to be docile about this. We're not going to be quiet or silent about this. And we keep doing this for God and for country. Thank you so much, Mr. Lord. That was beautiful. Let me just go straight to Mr. Bruce because he's got limited time. He's got a lot of things to do, but to save time, let me just go straight to him. Welcome, Mr. Bruce. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. You're conducting a wonderful program. Let me not tarry here. Let me begin with a little broader background, I think information that's important. There has never been anything like democracy connected to Nigeria. Not a single African voted on the boundaries of Nigeria. They were all at the end of a barrel of a gun of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom stole the sovereignty of those who inhabit the territory of Nigeria. The constitution under which you currently are operating was promulgated by a military dictator who didn't receive a single vote. It wasn't subject to any popular referendum. There was no popular input. I've been to in Nigerian courtrooms, half a dozen times. There is no indigenous judicial remedies for all of the horrors ongoing in Nigeria. The judiciary is an arm of the executive branch under Buhari. It simply ratified whatever he told them to do, and I doubt whether it will be any different with Tinubu. The difference is, I guess, Tinubu probably uses money to buy them off, where Buhari probably threatened to have them disappear. But that's important to understand, that there's never been democracy in Nigeria. When independence came in 1960, was there any popular vote to say, yeah, we want this power handed off to the Nigerian authorities that the British handed it off to? No, the British did it because they thought that the recipients would protect the British financial investment in Nigeria. So that's just the background here. We're trying to have, NEDECO really has to build a democracy that has never existed right now. In my view, Nigeria is an illegal state. It has an illegal constitution and illegal boundaries, never ratified by any popular consent. And it's been true at least since the American Declaration of Independence in 1776, that sovereignty is entrusted to the popular will, the consent of the governed. And that's not how it's evolved in Nigeria.
Sorry, Mr. Bruce, let me interject you for a second. Everyone listening to the sound of my voice, please try and Google up Mr. Bruce's name on Google and figure out the person speaking is not a novice. He's been around and he knows what he's speaking about. We have a rare gem here speaking. Listen carefully and Google. Just check him out and understand what we're doing here. Thank you so much. Back to you, Mr. Bruce. Sorry about that.
Okay. Now, with regard to the specific objective of removing Mr. Tinubu, and remember, it's combined, I think, with an ultimate objective of actually having a real constitution drafted that's tailored to the consent of the governed, which has never happened in Nigeria in 63 years. But the first step is either filing a new or participating in an existing Freedom of Information Act suit seeking to obtain from the FBI, we believe, records that would implicate Mr. Tinubu in serious crimes, including drug trafficking and fraud. That is a very important goal. The existing lawsuit was brought by a reporter. I think everyone on this call has a greater stake in the outcome of that FOIA request than the reporter does, because you live under the tyranny, or you know your families do, of Mr. Tinubu under an illegal constitution. We can either file a new Freedom of Information Act request or participate as what they call as amicus curiae, or interveners in the existing case. But this could be dynamite. It's challenging because I think it will show that the United States, in some sense, has been complicit in covering up Mr. Tinubu's wrongdoing for ulterior, squalid national security motives, access to Nigerian oil or otherwise. Misguided in my view, but that's why the FBI is resisting the disclosure of this information. You'd feel that someone who may be complicit in poisoning the American youth with drugs is not someone who should evoke the protection of the FBI. But anyway, that's one. But in the United States, and I underscore again that in my view, based upon decades of experience, there is no judicial remedy for the tragedy ongoing in Nigeria. It is a hopeless exercise. The judges will always do what the executive branch bribes them, tells them to do. There's no independence there. You all see it every day. But combined with the Freedom of Information Act suit, there has to be what I call a public advocacy campaign. That is, there has to be continuing disclosures, articles, letters, interviews on the media exposing Tinubu for the fraud that he is and the illegitimacy of the dispensation in Nigeria. I mean, it's happened before. I remember when I was in the Reagan administration, Ferdinand Marcos had been president chief of the Philippines for long, long decades. Was basically drummed out of office because he also had run, an illegal political campaign, and there was popular revolt against it. But he was ousted, and the Reagan administration, withheld any recognition, and then someone named Aquino was the successor. But public advocacy is a very, very challenging task. You can imagine right now, most of the oxygen is devoted to Gaza, Israel, or Ukraine. We don't control these events, so it has to be sustained. I always advocate a war room where you have a small group of people who know what's going on, meet each morning and find, okay, who's going to do the letters, who's going to do the interviews, who's going to call XYZ, get on these programs, who's going to do the social media. So you have an integrated strategy, and it's not just a one-time affair and everyone will forget about it. I understand everybody on the call recognized that for them, Nigeria and Tinubu is a huge issue. For Americans, if you don't educate them, they probably don't even know who the new president of Nigeria is. So we're competing against other news stories. You remember the United States is not like most other countries. We have like 173 foreign policies, not just one in Nigeria. So it takes skill to make sure that your issue is delivered and commands the attention of the public, because you're able to express it and make the audience engage by referring to things in our own history that are similar to things happening in Nigeria. There's also something that complements the public advocacy campaign, that is working with members of Congress to get any kind of resolutions urging non-recognition of Mr. Tinubu as the president, urging as well. We have something in the United States called the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act. Members of Congress have special standing to seek to place on a list that would prevent persons from obtaining visas or having any business or financial connection to the United States if they are engaged in violations of internationally